I think
Yeah,
that,
I think the
go ahead.
fact that there's a deep sigh when you ask people that are for the law what they're like,
Yeah.
what they believe means we need another name. You know, like if somebody's like, "Hey, what is it?" So, oh, you keep the Passover. So, what is it you believe? And you're like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
you know, like the fact that that exists means we need another name because up to this point, the only thing we can come up with is Hebrew roots and Messianic, and I'm just not either of those things. I'm
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
so I mean the fact that I need a shorthand way, and I remember the first time I used the word. My friend's like, "So are you a Christian?" I'm like, "Yeah, totally." He's like, "Well, what would you how would you define this that you believe?" And I said, "I'd say I'm pronomian." You know, because we'd had conversations about antinomianism. So I'm pronomian. And man, it was no questions asked. Didn't think about it. He didn't have. He's like, I get that, and that was it. And
Right.
that was it. It's just a shorthand way of saying I'm for the law.
Right.
Now, again, you're going to have people that disagree. Even theonomists have different, but there's different ranges of how the civil law applies. They don't all agree on how the civil law applies, but it's a starting premise. It's a starting premise that says, hey, I have not discounted the law. I have not discounted the law. You're not going to find a word it's going to encompass every nuance of doctrine. It just
Right.
isn't going to happen. Within Calvinism, there are different kinds of Calvinists. Within complementarianism, there's different kinds of all these different variations of words. You know, these words are not intended to cover every nuance of doctrine. They're intended to be a shorthand way of expressing a concept.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
from that, we just have to figure out now how do we understand the law? When we say this is the premise that the law is good, Old Testament sacramentalism, is it something that we still need to be concerned with? Is it something that holds some relevancy to
See,
our life? Should I be looking at the feasts? You know,
but what you're talking about is exactly what I like about terms like that. Is that when I say something, and let's take it out of the term pronomian, let's put it into, you've used the word Calvinist. Okay, that's let's use that word. I was having dinner at my house with a group of believers, I don't know, a month ago, and somebody said, "Well, I've just started studying Calvinism, and the problem that I have is that God essentially damns people to hell." And I said, "Okay, well, what you're talking about is often referred to as 4-point Calvinism instead of 5-point Calvinism because that's the one sticking." And this opens up a huge conversation, right? So just the term Calvinism, no, like none of us really agreed at the table on all of the 5 points of Calvinism. But at the same time, what it did was it squared our conversation so that we could actually talk about those differences. And ultimately, that's what pronomian needs to be as well. We need to be able to say, well, I'm pronomian. Oh, well, I am too. So what do we mean by that? Like, well, I don't believe that the law, the civil law still applies today. Well, I do. Okay, well, so it's being able to open up those conversations instead of saying, well, I'm pronomian. Oh, well, I totally disagree with that movement.